Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are jumping headfirst into a linguistic deep dive that seriously challenges a major assumption about the Quran. We're going to explore an analysis that asks a pretty mind-bending question about the language of the text itself. So let's get right into it. And there it is. That's the question at the heart of this whole thing. When the Quran says that it's Arabic, does it mean the language we know today is Arabic, the language of an ethnic group, or could it mean something totally different? The source material we're digging into today is going to argue that we might have had this wrong for a long, long time. Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, we've got to start with the one phrase that's really at the center of the whole debate. It's a famous line, and its common translation is probably one you've heard before. Right here. This is the translation you'll find in pretty much every copy, in a clear Arabic tongue. Seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? It says the message came down in a specific language, Arabic. This is our starting point, the baseline assumption. And we're about to see it get deconstructed piece by fascinating piece. Now, the whole analysis we're following hinges on one really strict rule. To figure out what the Quran's words mean, you can only use the Qur'an itself. No later dictionaries, no historical traditions, nothing from centuries later. The idea is that the book has to be its own dictionary. So let's break that key phrase down word by word using this method. First up, lisan. Now, this is usually translated as tongue or language, but the source points out that within the Quran, it seems to mean something broader, more like a mode of expression or a system of communication, not a specific national language. And here is the big one. This is the real game changer, Arabiya. The source argues that every single time this word is used in the Quran, it's not about ethnicity, it's about clarity. Its job isn't to say this is Arabic, but to say this is clear, distinct, and totally unambiguous. This is the core of the whole argument. And the last word, mubin, just drives that point home. It means something is self-evident or manifestly clear. So when you put it all together, the source suggests the phrase isn't a clear Arabic tongue, but something more like a mode of expression that is clear and self-evident, a communication system that leaves no room for confusion. So that's the claim. A pretty bold one, right? But where's the evidence? Well, let's dive into the next part, because the analysis we're following brings some serious textual receipts directly from the Quran to back this whole thing up. You can really see the shift in thinking here. The traditional view is an ethnic binary. You're either Arabic or you're non-Arab, or Ajami. But this source material argues the Quran is setting up a totally different binary. It's not about ethnicity, it's about function. It's Arabi, meaning clear, versus its direct opposite, Adami, which it argues means unclear or obscure. And boom, here is the smoking gun, according to the source. This verse right here literally puts the two words side by side, in direct opposition. The contrast isn't between an Arab language and a foreign one. It's between a way of speaking that is Ajami, obscure, and one that is Arabi mubin, perfectly clear and self-evident. The text defines its own terms. And this isn't just a one-off thing. The analysis shows that in all 6 places the word Arabi shows up, it's always connected to these ideas of intellectual clarity. It's described as having no distortion, as being for people who reason, for people who use their intellect. The pattern, they argue, is undeniable. Arabi is about the quality of the message, not the ethnicity of the speaker. Okay, so if the word for the language is an ethnic, does this same logic apply to words for people? Well, you can probably guess where this is going. The source takes this exact same lens and applies it to group labels we've always thought of as tribal. This is the next logical step, right? What about a word like al-A'rab? For centuries, that's been translated as the Bedouins, a very specific ethnic and nomadic group. But if the Quran isn't using ethnic labels for language, maybe it's not using them for people either. And yep, you guessed it, using that same Quran-only method, the source argues these are functional terms, not ethnic ones. So al-Arab are not the Bedouins, but people who live on the social or ethical periphery of the main community. And Badu aren't just desert dwellers, but anyone living in socially unstructured or unbounded spaces. So what emerges is this whole new social map. It's not city people versus desert people or this tribe versus that tribe. It's all about your relationship to a central system of law and ethics. You're either fully inside that system, you're hovering on the periphery, or you're way out in the unstructured spaces. It's about what you do, not who you were born to. All right, this brings us to the biggest test case of them all, the final boss, if you will. What about the Quraysh, the famous, powerful group traditionally known as the Prophet Muhammad's own tribe? What happens when we turn this functional lens on them? Well, first, the source points to this incredible verse from the Qur'an itself, which sets the stage. It basically says, look, we made you into different groups so you could get to know each other, not to create a hierarchy. The only thing that makes you noble is your own righteousness. This suggests that the whole idea of one tribe being superior is fundamentally against the Qur'an's own message. So, with that in mind, let's look at the name Quraysh. The linguistic root, QRSH, has nothing to do with bloodlines. The meaning is all about action, specifically economic and social action, to gather, to collect, to make pacts, to bring resources together. And that leads to this stunning conclusion from the source. Quraysh isn't a tribe, it's a job description. It's a title for a socioeconomic class, the people whose function was to consolidate trade and make pacts, which is exactly what the chapter about them, Surah 106, describes them doing. They're the consolidators, not a holy bloodline. So let's just zoom out for a second. When you take all these individual redefinitions and put them together, what you get is a completely different framework for identity in the Qur'an. It's a massive shift away from who your ancestors were and towards what you, yourself, actually do. You can see the patterns so clearly here, all the way down the line, whether it's Quraysh or Al-Arab or even common words like Qawm and Ummah, the source finds the same thing. The Qur'an isn't using ethnic labels. It's using functional labels. It's describing groups based on their economic role, their social position, their moral state, or their shared mission. And that really is the heart of it all. This is the ultimate takeaway from this whole linguistic journey. According to this analysis, identity in the Qur'an has nothing to do with race or tribe or lineage. It's all about function, ethics, and choice. It's what you do that defines you, not where you come from. And that kind of leaves us with a final, pretty deep question to think about. If this ancient text, as this analysis argues, defines people by their actions and their choices rather than their ancestry, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In our world today, a world that is still so obsessed with labels of nation, ethnicity, and background, what are the functions and choices that truly define us?